Okay, so picture this. A massive cliff face in the middle of a desert, and carved right into it are hundreds of temples. Inside, there's this incredible treasure trove of art and ancient writings that were hidden from the entire world for almost 1,000 years. Today, we're diving into the story of the Mogao Caves, which is basically an entire library of history on the old Silk Road.
Right, let's get into it. Our story really kicks off with a mystery. For centuries, this amazing place was sort of half forgotten, crumbling in the desert. But then, right at the turn of the 20th century, one single discovery completely changed what we thought we knew about the ancient world. So, meet our key character, Wang Yuanlu. He was a monk who had basically made it his life's mission to look after these temples. And one day, while he's clearing out sand that had blown into one of the caves, just a normal day's work, he notices a little crack in a wall. And behind it, a hidden door plastered over and painted to just blend right in. He had absolutely no idea what he was about to find. When that door was finally opened, this is what the first outsiders saw. The archaeologist Aurel Stein, who got there a few years later, was just blown away. I mean, can you imagine? It was a time capsule, a room literally stuffed to the ceiling with ancient documents that hadn't been touched since the 11th century. It quickly became known as the Library Cave. The sheer scale of what was packed into that room is it's hard to even wrap your head around. This wasn't just a few old scrolls, no. This was an entire archive of a lost world. And it was all perfectly preserved by the dry desert air. 50,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. An estimated 50,000 documents, paintings, and other artifacts were crammed into that one little room. That number alone makes this one of the greatest discoveries of ancient manuscripts ever. And the variety, it was just breathtaking. You had Buddhist scriptures, of course, but right alongside them were Christian and even Hebrew texts. There were government records, business deals, ancient star charts, even music scores. And the whole collection was written in more than a dozen different languages. Oh, and among all of that was this absolute gem, the Diamond Sutra from the year 868. It is the world's oldest, complete, and dated printed book. Just amazing. So here's the really crucial point to understand. This incredible library, it was just one room in one cave inside a much, much larger complex. The Mogao site itself is a masterpiece that was 1,000 years in the making. The amount of time we're talking about here is just immense. Legend has it that it all began way back in 366 CE. A monk had this vision of 1,000 Buddhas shining in golden light, and he was inspired to dig the very first cave. For the next 1,000 years, pilgrims, monks, and wealthy patrons dug out and decorated nearly 500 caves. The whole thing really hit its artistic peak during China's glorious Tang Dynasty. And what's so cool is you can literally see history evolving right there on the walls. The art in the early caves, it's got a really strong Indian and Central Asian vibe. But fast forward to the Tang Dynasty, and the style is unmistakably Chinese. It's grander, way more complex, showing these huge Buddhist paradises in spectacular detail. You can just feel the confidence of the imperial court. So the big question is, why here? I mean, why build this massive sanctuary in the middle of the Gobi Desert? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Location, location, location. Mogao was right at a vital crossroads of the ancient world. For 1,000 years, Dunhuang wasn't just some dusty outpost. It was a bustling, thriving hub on the Silk Road. It was a place where merchants would pray for a safe journey or give thanks for a successful one. And this melting pot of cultures, religions, and ideas is exactly what fueled the creation of the caves. And it's why the art has this stunning international style. And you know, the murals are so much more than just religious paintings. They're like windows looking directly into the past. We see these lively scenes of everyday life, merchants with their camels, soldiers marching home from a victory, and even one of the earliest, most detailed artistic maps in Chinese history. They're basically historical documents painted on a massive scale. Okay, so let's get back to that incredible library cave. Finding it was, of course, a huge triumph. But the story of what happened next, well, that's where things get a lot more complicated and, frankly, pretty controversial. So after his amazing discovery, Wang Yuanlu tried to get officials interested, but he didn't have much luck. Then, in 1907, a British-Hungarian explorer named Arl Stein showed up. For what was really a pretty small amount of money, he talked Wang into selling him thousands of documents. A year later, a French scholar, Paul Pelliot, who could actually read the ancient languages, came and carefully picked out the most valuable texts that were left. Soon, Japanese and Russian expeditions followed suit. The end result is that this unique collection, once sealed together in one room, is now scattered all over the globe, sparking this very complex, century-long debate about where these treasures really belong.
And that brings us to today. The scattering of the manuscripts was a huge loss for the site itself, but the biggest challenge now is just protecting what's left of this incredibly fragile wonder for the future. I mean, think about the threats. They're immense. The caves themselves are made of soft rock and clay plaster, painted with mineral pigments, all super delicate stuff. The Gobi Desert is a harsh environment. But you know what the biggest modern threat is? It's us. The humidity and carbon dioxide from hundreds of thousands of visitors every year can cause damage that you just can't undo. The response has been this really fascinating mix of low-tech and high-tech solutions. The number of visitors allowed each day is strictly limited. Your time inside the caves is short. But beyond that, you've got cutting-edge conservation science, with groups like the Getty Institute working to stabilize the delicate murals. And then technology is offering a completely revolutionary way to see the caves. Now, this is what's really exciting. Teams are creating these stunningly detailed virtual reality tours and high-resolution digital archives of the caves and all their art. This is brilliant because it not only allows scholars, and you and me, to explore these wonders from anywhere in the world, but it also takes the pressure off the actual physical site, helping to make sure the originals can survive for another 1,000 years. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. The story of Mogao is all about creation, preservation, and loss. As we get better and better at making these perfect digital copies of our world's treasures, it really forces us to ask, what is our shared responsibility to protect the real thing? What's lost if we can no longer stand in the presence of the authentic, fragile, and totally irreplaceable original?